gonna make a pillowcase right now. So what you're gonna need for this project when it comes to fabric is 3 pieces of fabric. One is the body piece, and then you have a trim piece and the cuff piece, okay? So you're gonna have an opportunity to go pick out your fabrics and what you want. Your body piece needs to be a total of 28 inches when you cut it from here to here. It's 28 inches. Long when you're cutting it here. So you can see it's already draped down there for you. So the body piece is 28 inches. This cuff piece is actually 2 inches, but I already went ahead and ironed it, so it's actually folded in half for you. So that's 2 inches for you, and we're gonna be ironing it in half. And then your cuff piece, this medium-sized piece, is gonna be 9 inches. And just like I did for the trim piece, I went ahead and already folded it for you and ironed it. So this is what it would look like if it was open. Okay, so one long piece that's 9 inches wide here, okay? And what we're gonna do, like I showed you, is the cuff piece that's 9 inches wide. Open this up here for you. The cuff piece that's 9 inches wide, we're going to go and iron it, and I want you to fold it in half like a hot dog. Okay, just like in elementary school when you guys learn how to fold paper. You're folding it in half and you're going to iron it right down the middle here. So we have half and half, okay? Do the same thing with this trim piece. It was 2 inches. You're going to fold it in half so it makes it 1 inch. Fold it in half like a hot dog and we're going to iron it. And then for the body piece, you're just going to keep it open and just iron it. Just try to get as many wrinkles out as possible, okay? So when you are assembling this, after you have everything cut, the dimensions that you need to be cut, so again, 28 inches for the body piece, 2 inches for the trim piece, the small purple piece, okay, and 9 inches for your cuff piece. You're going to layer it on top of each other. So I'm going to kind of slide it down here so you can see what I'm talking about. So there's your 3 pieces. And I don't always use pins, but you can use pins. Obviously, if you're not used to sewing, you want to use pins. So I have my pin cushion with my pins on it for you. And this is how I want you to iron it. So this, we're looking at, this is the length here, so you can see what side we're looking at here, okay? So what I'm going to have you do is I want you to lay the body piece out on a table or something. And then you're going to take your trim piece next, the small piece. The part that kind of opens, that part, is going to go on the outside edge. It's going to go like this. And you're just going to lay it right on top as evenly as you can, okay? And then your cuff piece, and opens this direction, your cuff piece is going to lay on top of the trim piece, just like that. Okay, so actually you're going to hide the trim piece for a moment. We're going to be eventually sewing down this side, and so when you open it up after you sew it, then you'll see that pretty trim piece there. But in the meantime, you're not going to be able to see it. So let's double check to make sure you have it all layered correctly. So lay out your body piece first. The snowman fabric is my body piece. Take your trim piece next. This is the side that opens. Lay that on the edge. And then same thing, take your cuff piece, opens right here, and lay that part on the edge. And you're going to take this and pin all 3 layers together. Okay, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. So you notice I put a pin up there, okay? We're going to pin all 3 of those layers together. So I'm going to go through and pin the next part. And we're going to pin it all the way across, all the way to you get to the very opposite edge, all the way down to the bottom here. Okay, so there's the edge. So we're going to pin this entire edge here. And you want to keep checking to make sure that all 3 pieces are lined up together as you pin. Okay, we're going to pin it all the way across. Again, double check to make sure everything is being pinned as you go. Okay, now we're going to sew. So I have everything pinned up the way I want to. Just to double check to make sure that you have everything pinned right one last time before you send it through the machine. Your body, my snowman fabric, my body fabric should be on the bottom, my trim fabric should be laying right on top of that, and then my cuff fabric should be on top of that. So what we're going to do, I already have my thread in here. I'm using white because that seems to be the kind of the closest color to what I want for my pillow. I'm going to insert my fabric inside here and drop down my presser foot. Now I'm going to line, hopefully you can see this, I'm going to line my fabric up to the side of my presser foot here. So if I zoom in just a little bit more, hopefully you can see that my fabric and my presser foot are right on top of each other, okay? So we're going to go ahead and sew, and we're just going to go straight down the cuff or the edge here of the raw edge of my pillow. I do have my machine set for just a standard stitch, so on your machines, if you're using the Brother machine, it would be at 0-1, just the standard straight stitch here. I'm going to go ahead and take out that first pin just because you never want to sew over top of a pin when you're sewing, because it definitely can break a needle on your machine. And when you start, you always start. I'm going to do a reverse back stitch here just because I'm starting a new row, and I'm just going to go straight. Now be careful, don't go too fast. You want to make sure that you keep the edge of your fabric lined up to the foot there of my machine, and we're just going to go straight down the material here. When you get close to another pin, take it out please, because we do not want any of the fabric to be, or sorry, any of the pins to get sewn through my machine. That is not going to be a good day. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure everything's lined up. I personally don't always use pins, so you might notice that I'm not going to be using pins from here on out. Yours probably will have pins in it. We're just going to keep going straight. And as you see, when you get closer to the end, not all your fabrics are going to have that same width that the manufacturer has. So you might notice that sometimes your fabric might match up, other times one might be a little shorter than the other. That's totally fine, because we're just going to end up trimming that part off. So if it doesn't line up there at the end, it's fine. Go ahead and do your back stitch, and we're going to take it off the machine here. So you can tell that I have, let me back it up a little bit. I already have my stitch for you, and if I open it up, you can see the cuff there on the inside. Okay, and we're gonna be ironing that open there in a little bit. All right, so what I would do, or what you could do, there's two options. You can get your pinking shears out. These are the ones that have like the little zigzags when you cut. And you can trim off this raw edge here. And by doing that, let me flip this over here. By trimming this off, this little raw edge, or by pinking it, it would actually cause it not to fray. So if I show you this here, you don't want to cut on the seam itself, but I could cut. You can see that here. I could cut right there on the edge, and that would help it from fraying. Another thing that you could do if you don't want to use the pinking shears is actually run it through your machine a second time. So I could change my stitch over here. I can change it to 0.5. You can see that on the machine. My stitch is at 0.5. That actually makes a zigzag stitch. So that's another option that you can do that would help it from fraying. Essentially, you're going to put it back into your machine, and you're going to zigzag stitch between the seam that you just made and the raw edge is another way you can do it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just use my pinking shears for you. If you don't want to zigzag it, that's totally fine. So what you're going to do is we're just going to trim it, but do not, if you can see that, do not cut where your seam is at, because that will take apart your fabrics that you just sewn together. So give me a moment here while I go ahead and trim this off.
The edge for you.
It's a little thicker when you have a few pieces of fabric that you're going through. Okay, so this is what the edge kind of looks like. Oopsies. If I can get the lighting here. So you still see the seam that's going across. Hopefully you see that. There you go. You see the seam that we have going across, and then how I use my pinking shears to trim off the edge. But I did not cut at any point in time. I did not cut through the seam that I just made. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back and iron this material again, but we're going to iron it open. Okay, so we're going to open this back up, and using your iron, we're going to go through and we're going to iron this. You're going to iron it just like this, going over top of all the materials, just kind of opening it up, making it lay flat, and ironing out that seam. Okay, so now we have to trim off, oopsies, almost dropped that. We have to trim off where this has not been even here when we sewed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pillowcase, and I'm going to fold it in half. Okay, so I went from the body to the cuff side, and I'm going to fold it. Let me see if I can lay this out here for you guys so you can see it. So I folded it so that if you look at the cuff's still going long ways here, I just kind of folded it in half along this edge to make sure that this part is even. And notice that we have some obviously leftover, some extra stuff that we do not need. It's extra stuff that we can trim off there for you. If I can zoom in for you. So this part is going to be, this whole strip here is going to be cut off. So what you need to do is make sure you're on a cutting board. Make sure the entire fabric's on the cutting board and you're not going off on a table or anything. Get out your straight edge. And you also need your rotary cutter. Okay, this is all going to be, the rotary cutter is going to be in your sewing box. So remember, when you're doing your straight edge here, I'm going to get just to the edge of where like that cuff fabric ends, and make sure that it's also, like, did you see this number 19 down here at the bottom? For example, this 19, this line should be right up against the edge of my pillowcase. That's how you know that we're making a perfect square here. And the edge of my straight edge is going right up the side of that pillow here. And we're going to trim off this extra stuff using our rotary cutter. Make sure you hold your straight edge firmly against the cutting mat, or it can shift, which we don't want that to happen, because then you won't have a straight line anymore. Okay, so by us using that straight edge, we now have a straight cut. We got rid of the uneven part there at the end of the pillowcase. So both sides of our pillowcase now have a nice, pretty edge to it. It's nice and even on both sides. So we're going to go back to our sewing machine to finish up the last stuff of the pillowcase. All right, so we're back to the machine. One thing I did not do yet, I have not trimmed off my thread from the start of my pillowcase, so I went ahead and trimmed that off. So what I have now is my pillowcase. So the last step we're going to do is essentially close it off. So I'm going to fold it so that the right sides, or like that, the pretty material is facing each other. And what you're going to see is you're going to see the back side of it on both sides. Okay, and I'm going to match the edge of my cuff right here. I'm going to match it up as straight as I can. Again, you can pin them. I encourage you guys to pin it. I'm not going to pin it because I'm just used to sewing without pins. But if you have not sewn before, I encourage you guys to pin the edge of your cuff here so it doesn't shift. And we also want to make sure that as much as we can, that trim piece is even. So, you know, I'll go ahead and just pin it so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So go ahead and pin. Okay, so there's one pin. And then I can go and look, if I open this up a little bit, you can see the inside of it. I want these trim pieces to be as close as possible. So you guys can kind of open it up and try to line it up as close as possible. Okay, and go ahead and pin that part too. Okay, so things are pinned. And I'm going to go down now and sew from the cuff all the way down to this corner and then over. We're going to literally sew up these last two sides of the pillowcase. Okay, so let me start with this first. Okay, remember you want to set it up so that the fabric is right along the edge of my presser foot there. So it's right along the edge. We're going to start and do our reverse stitch here. And then just like we did before when we went and sewed the three pieces together, we're going to just follow right along the edge of the presser foot and go straight down from the cuff down to the corner of the pillow. Now you might notice that I'll be going through multiple pieces of fabric here when I go over where the cuff and the trim is. So you might want to take that just a little slower, but besides that you should be able to sew through that pretty easily. And then we're going to continue sewing down this bottom edge of the pillow here. Again, you can have yours pinned. I encourage that. When you get down to the corner, you could stop just about like a quarter inch or so before you get to the end. Lift up your presser foot, and we're going to turn the fabric so that we can go along then this bottom or this back side of the pillow then as well. Now when you start getting to the corner here, we don't have to turn this because this side of the fabric was where we folded it, so there's no need for a seam. So you can go ahead and just finish it off by doing your reverse stitch here. Now don't forget you have strings on both ends from where you started and stopped, so go ahead and take your scissors and trim that extra thread off. There's also one up here at the beginning by the cuff. Okay, so then what you have left is we have two essentially sides that you just sewed. One from the cuff down to the corner, and then one on the back side. All of this will fray if you don't either do a zigzag stitch or use your pinking shears. So I'm going to move my machine out of the way for you. lay my pillowcase down. Hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, so this is where I just sewed, and I'm going to get my shears and just give it a zigzag there on the edge. You want to go all the way down to the corner and then do the back side of the pillow as well. Alright, and that is the end of cutting them. So then you can open it up. You also could iron it if you wanted to open those seams up. Let me see if I can open this. Don't forget to throw away all your scraps. I don't want to find scraps on the tables. I'm going to go ahead and flip this the right way so you can see the fabric here. You might have to use your fingers to kind of push in the corners just to make sure that the corners of your pillows pop all the way out here. So just stick a finger in the corner. And besides maybe doing one last press, if you want to do a press for it, you should have a finished pillowcase when you're all done. So there's your pillow with the trim and the cuff.